In a large building on Earth, a group of people gathered. They were adventurers from the Phoenix Guild, the same group that bought the magic cherry tomatoes from Theo. As their conversation continued, Phoenix Guild leader Kim Dong-shik received a message on her cell phone. The message came from his daughter, who told him how effective the cherry tomatoes her father bought her were, and now she wanted more. Dong-shik was moved to tears reading the message. A young man standing next to Dong-shik asked what was wrong, and Dong-shik told his daughter's story. Usually her daughter often complains about her difficult diet, but that day she was very happy and showed her affection to Dong-shik. He didn't expect her daughter to like the cherry tomatoes so much. If he had known, he would have bought them all. One man asked if it was the cherry tomatoes that the wandering cat was selling and why girls were so crazy about the fruit. Another man recounted how he had given cherry tomatoes to a girl he knew, which had strengthened their relationship. One of them confessed that he also bought cherry tomatoes and still had some left. The other two men were soon in a price battle, each trying to buy the remaining cherry tomatoes with a very high price offer. But Dong-shik immediately cut off their conversation, ordering to call the whole team and prepare for the expedition to the 38th floor. Although Dong-shik was serious, some of his team members were confused. They felt it hadn't been long since the last expedition, and launching a new expedition could cause complaints. Suddenly, the female members came in saying they were ready to go on their mission, wearing clothes that accentuated their slim waists in a style that suggested weight loss. A girl revealed that they had prepared tower coins to buy cherry tomatoes, though she hastily corrected her, saying that they were actually collecting coins for the expedition. Hearing this, Dong-shik ordered his team to prepare, and everyone seemed excited to set off immediately. The men wanted to go on an expedition, while the women were eager to buy cherry tomatoes. Determinedly, Dong-shik led his team to get the magical cherry tomatoes and became a great father no matter what. Meanwhile, inside the tower, Theo is walking down the middle level, wondering when he will reach his sales target of 1,000 tower coins. He looks tired and somewhat disappointed. Theo notes that he can only keep 150 cherry tomatoes in his bag, and even if he sells them all, he will have to travel back and forth more than 10 times to reach his goal. He is now on the 38th floor, and as he checks around, it turns out that they found him first. They greeted him enthusiastically and told their colleagues about the merchant cat that was there. The surprised Theo asked the man in front of him, "Are they looking for it?" The man confirmed and said that they had been waiting on that floor for 3 days, not knowing when he would return. He asked if Theo brought the magic cherry tomatoes again. Theo was surprised to hear the man's explanation, saying they had passed through the dangerous area for 3 days just to buy cherry tomatoes. The man asked if the price of cherry tomatoes was still 0.05 tower coins per fruit. But seeing the opportunity to get more, Theo immediately told him that the price of the tomato had increased. Hearing that, the man was surprised, and his reaction caught Dong-shik's attention. Dong-shik approached and asked about the new price. Theo told him that the price was now 0.07 tower coins per piece. Despite looking calm, Theo felt anxious in her heart, worried that the price had been raised too high, but Dong-shik was not affected by the new price and immediately expressed his desire to buy 200 cherry tomatoes while placing the bag of tower coins in front of Theo. Even the other team members also felt that the price was reasonable, considering that such a precious item should not be sold at such a low price. They also expressed their concern if this opportunity to buy cherries was missed, as they didn't know when cherries would be available again. Soon they began to order. The previously full basket was now empty, and in front of it lay a bag of tower coin bags. Even though the price had gone up, 150 cherry tomatoes were sold out in no time. Dong-shik asked when Theo would show up again. Theo asked if Dong-shik would wait for her at the same place, and if he did, he could come back in about 10 days. Dong-shik was surprised to hear the answer, thinking 10 days was enough time to complete the mission and regroup. He confirmed to Theo that they will be back in 10 days to buy more cherry tomatoes. Dong-shik instructed his team to prepare themselves. They will complete the spider mission and exit the tower immediately. The team members look ready for action, while Theo smiles, inwardly realizing that he has found a regular customer, reaching 1,000 tower coins and becoming a mid-level merchant. Now feels like it's getting closer. As Theo was about to leave, a group of enthusiastic girls approached him, calling him Mr. Cat. Theo, who was curious about their intentions, listened to them talking to each other. Theo also interrupted them to explain that his name was not Mr. Cat but Theo. The girl in front of him apologized and introduced herself as Suha. Theo asked what she meant they looked alike, and Suha replied that Theo looked like a cat she knew. Theo denied it, claiming that he was the only handsome cat in the world. Then he turned to leave, revealing that he was busy, but Suha quickly rummaged in her bag and asked him to wait a moment. She took out a long red package from her bag, and Theo asked what was it. Suha offered Chiru Korean cat snacks. Theo, who usually only eats grilled fish, immediately opened his mouth to taste it. Once he took a bite, Theo stopped for a moment, mesmerized by the delicious taste. He couldn't stop licking it while wondering what flavor he was enjoying. After finishing one package, Theo asked Suha if she had any more. Suha revealed that she had another flavor, and Theo enthusiastically asked for it. To give him more, Suha agreed on the condition that Theo should take a photo with her. Theo, who didn't know what a photo was, immediately accepted the offer in exchange for getting the whole churro. Suha took out her cell phone while posing for a group photo. After that, Theo left, happily licking the churro package while Suha waved goodbye. Her friends were surprised to see for the first time someone bringing cat treats into the tower. Another girl expressed her pleasure at seeing Suha smiling brightly and asked if she would come back to meet Theo. Suha smiled at the photo she took with Theo and replied that she would definitely be back. We switched to the scene in the cave. In the cave, Sejun sees a black rabbit swimming in the water, while Sejun gives it special training to improve its swimming skills. Several other rabbits are also watching from the water's edge. Sejun gave instructions for the rabbit to relax and move the float made of onion leaves forward. The black rabbit followed the instructions well, and Sejun praised the effort. For safety reasons, Sejun explained that he had plugged the holes through which the piranhas entered. Although he had checked the effectiveness of the blockage several times, the worry still remained. After some time practicing, Black Rabbit was now quite proficient, and Sejun decided to train him to swim without a float. This development is especially significant compared to the previous incident when Black Rabbit almost died after jumping into the water, eagerly without realizing the danger of the piranha lurking. Sejun still vividly remembers that moment when the Black Rabbit was stranded on the water unconscious, while Sejun frantically searched for a way out. Mama Rabbit, who was very worried about the condition of her son, even fainted, but fortunately the piranha did not attack. When that memory flashed, Sejun felt his heart racing. The Black Rabbit, who was now out of the water, looked at the other rabbit siblings who were taking turns learning to swim. Sejun, who was exhausted after playing in the water, missed sweets. When he opened his bag to get his honey supply, he realized that his honey jar was empty. He thought about the poisonous honey bee that hadn't come out of its hive for several days since it was moved to the cave. Sejun was worried that something had happened to the bee, but his surprise grew when he saw many young bees surrounding the hive. Sejun checked the information about the young bees and found that they were descendants of the poisonous honey bees he had known. Sejun was surprised because it had been a long time since he had checked on the condition of the bee, and now so many bee children were seen surrounding the hive, considering it had been a long time since he had seen the bee, and now he had offspring. It was time to congratulate her by seeing her tomato garden. Sejun decided to bring a gift as a token of his concern. The only gift he could bring was tomato flowers, but as soon as he approached the hive, the bee children, who saw him approaching, started to show aggression. Their eyes glowed red, and they flew angrily towards Sejun. Seeing this, the farmer rabbits ran away while the Black Rabbit beside him took out a big hammer to fight the bee children. Sejun tried to calm the bee children and told them not to attack because they were not enemies. That's when there was a figure from inside the hive who seemed to be listening to Sejun's words. Although the bee children looked very threatening, Black Rabbit was prepared to fight if necessary. The increasingly angry bee children immediately attacked Sejun. He closed his eyes, ready to face their stings, but suddenly they stopped when he opened his eyes. He saw an unfamiliar figure. A large bee-like figure with a crown on its head flew towards Sejun. Startled, Sejun wondered if this could be the poisonous honeybee he knew. It was the poisonous honeybee queen, who was now surrounded by her bee children. The poisonous honeybee queen, who seemed to have an anthropomorphic form, answered Sejun's question in their own language. Sejun could only stare open-mouthed, as well as the Black Rabbit, who was surprised to see him. Sejun wondered in his heart, is this really the honeybee he knows? The scene switches to show the tower manager, who looks very nervous. He was reading a book carefully entitled The Ultimate Guide for Tower Managers. It was written in the book that poisonous honeybees are not ordinary insects, but scary monsters that hunt other creatures for food. But the book did not provide any information about poisonous honeybees that are friendly to humans or even turn into human-like creatures. He shook his head in confusion, wondering why these poisonous bees could act like that. He then turned to stare at his crystal ball. Inside the crystal ball, he saw Sijuan and the poisonous honey bee staring at each other. Back to the previous scene, Sijuan was really surprised that the poisonous honey bee had turned into a stunning humanoid bee figure. Sijuan wondered if it was indeed the same poisonous honey bee. The bee replied with a big smile and a cheerful nod. Everyone who saw the incident was even more surprised. In response, the now human-shaped bee struck a funny pose. That's how the story of how the little bee was transformed begins after first drinking the nectar from the Sijuan cave. The little bee began to experience sudden changes in his body, and he also gained weight. Even the queen bee of the colony she came from began to be cautious and act aggressively towards her. It wasn't long before the little bee realized the reason for her different treatment. She had developed the ability to lay eggs. She left her old nest and decided to build a new one in the Sijuan cave because she thought it was the safest place. Inside her new nest, the bee endured the pain she experienced for several days silently. Finally, after several shape changes, she evolved into the human form we see today. After the final transformation, she was surprised by her new appearance and realized that she had become the queen bee. Back to the present, Sijuan smiled and congratulated the bee on her evolution into a queen. He gave the queen bee a bouquet of tomato flowers which touched her deeply. Her eyes shone with joy as she gazed at the flowers. Touched and happy, the queen bee ran to Sijuan and hugged him tightly, rubbing her cheek against Sijuan as she did when she was a child. While the other bees watched and wondered at their mother being so friendly with Sijuan, the bee children felt they should do the same and began to think of him as their new friend. Sijuan was surprised at first, but he soon got used to their treatment. The bee children began to become friendly towards the rabbits. A few days passed since this strange incident. Sijuan was seen sleeping soundly, but the black rabbit tried to wake him up by pulling his onion blanket. In a half-asleep state, Sijuan opened his eyes slowly and found the rabbit children holding his hand trying to take him somewhere. Papa Rabbit, who looked excited, pointed to a blue carrot plant. It turned out that the blue moon had passed, and Sijuan had slept through the night without realizing it. Seeing the rabbits, who were very enthusiastic about the carrots, Sijuan realized why they disturbed his sleep and hurriedly woke him up. Sijuan grasped the carrot firmly and pulled with all his might, and in an instant it was uprooted from the ground. A smile appeared on his face while the rabbits around him were stunned with their mouths wide open in excitement. The carrot was quite large. When Sijuan checked the information, he learned that it was a magic carrot called the Carrot of Agility. The blue moon had given it special powers. Anyone who eats this carrot will permanently increase their agility by 0.5. Sejun was deep in thought, realizing that this carrot had a rating, and he got 70 experience points out of the 50 points he predicted. While harvesting them, his skill and skills rose to level 2. Sejun thought the harvest would also increase greatly if he planted ranky crops like this. After a while, Sejun thought to sit down with the rabbits and tell them that the carrots shouldn't be for him. They were the ones who worked hard to grow them. He gave it to them. Papa Rabbit was seen holding the carrot with excitement, while Mama Rabbit and the fighting rabbits looked at it with sparkling eyes. Suddenly, one of the rabbit children carrying a scythe offered to divide the carrot for everyone. Papa Rabbit tossed the carrot into the air, and with a quick motion, the scythe rabbit started cutting it into 7 equal pieces. The other rabbits stare at him with their mouths wide open in impatience. As soon as Sickle Rabbit returned to the ground, the divided pieces of carrot fell into each rabbit's hands. Seeing this, Sejun praised the skills of the Sickle Rabbit, who then stood proudly holding a piece of carrot while the other rabbits applauded him. The Sickle Rabbit enjoyed his piece of carrot happily, but the Black Rabbit pouted as he felt his piece was smaller than the others. Sejun proceeded to harvest the cherry tomatoes that had been endowed with the energy of the blue moon. He carefully placed 5 tomatoes on a tray made of leeks, while remembering that the tower manager had given him the task of handing over the blue cherry tomatoes. When Sejun called out to the tower manager, the blue tomatoes in his hand disappeared, signaling that the mission was complete. The manager accepted the tomato and expressed his gratitude to Sejun. Sejun then suggested that if the manager was really grateful, he should give him a special ability as a reward. The tower manager said that he would consider it and give something in the future. Nevertheless, Sejun was curious about the meaning of those words, but before he could ask further, Sejun was stopped by a loud shout from Theo.